It's the Herd. Wherever you may be, however you may be listening, iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, FS1. Joel Klatt's around the corner. Nick Wright this hour as well. A-Rod joining us next hour. You watched some baseball last night?
I did. A-Rod batting cleanup for us. That's nice today.
Yeah, I watched the Yankees game for a while, about an hour. I watched about an hour and a half of the Dodger game last night. Dodgers-Padres, the conclusion is always the same.
Yeah.
There were a lot of stars last night. Jason Bateman was there. The great Sandy Koufax was there.
Yeah.
There were Brad Paisley was there.
Who's that? Oh,
he was a country star.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, it's great. Dodger game's great.
Yeah, Yankees game was good as well.
It was.
I still am on course for the Yankees-Dodgers World Series. We're going to speak it into existence now.
I think it's going to be Astros-Dodgers.
Those darn Astros got so lucky last night.
So I grew up a Mariner fan. My entire existence, I wanted to be a play-by-play announcer for the Seattle Mariners. That was my goal as a kid. I gave up on that pretty quick. And by the way, so we've only had one or two really good Mariner teams my whole life. And it's weird when you're a kid, you don't really care. You love your team. Then I got fatigued after about 10 years of the front office drove me crazy. I don't care. But my friends, this Mariner team, they have a star. They have a couple of young stars. They went at the trade deadline, made a move for a pitcher. And yesterday they had it won. And then the Astros come in. Bottom 9, bang. What? I don't even know if you overcome that.
That's a gut punch for the Mariners.
And didn't they go with an ace out of the pen, which is always a dicey situation? So, good. Listen, baseball playoffs are great. You can feel the tension watching the baseball playoffs. So, I want to touch on this. So, Ron Rivera came out. I thought it was completely tone deaf. What a shock. A defensive coach is tone deaf about a quarterback. But people asked him about the problem with Washington, and Ron Rivera said this.
The Giants, they're up to a faster start. The Eagles, the Cowboys, they've kind of all been rebuilding too the last couple of years, and it seems like they're farther ahead. Why do you think the teams in the division are farther ahead at this point?
Quarterback. The truth is that this is a quarterback-driven league. And if you look at the teams that have been able to sustain success, they've been able to build it around a specific quarterback.
He apologized for that. So it's easy for me to say something. Let's really break it down. There's only 13 defensive coaches left in the league. And I think if 3 or 4 will be gone after this year, maybe. But let's look at each one individually to prove my point that as the league is pivoted to offense, we've got a real issue here. So let's look at every defensive coach. Let's start with one everybody likes, Sean McDermott, Buffalo. 6 years. They can't develop a run game. 6 years. Next is Belichick. And we like McDermott. Cannot develop a consistent run game. Belichick. They have no pass catchers. The Jets, Robert Saleh. Jury's still out. I won't make a judgment. Mike Tomlin, 4 years. Can't get the coordinator or the O-line right. Lovie Smith, 29th ranked offense. Mike Vrabel, 30th ranked offense. LA Chargers, just underachieving. Ron Rivera, a 4th place team. Matt Eberflus, the Bears are averaging 10 completions a game. Todd Bowles, offense has been sluggish, but it's mostly Brady's team. Dennis Allen, Jameis Winston has regressed badly. And Pete Carroll, I'm not buying the Geno Smith thing long term. It's a 4th place team. I didn't have to reach for those conclusions. Like, we got a culture change and the defensive guys, and I like McDermott. And for years, I worshiped Belichick. But you got to be able to develop a run game in 6 years. Like some consistent run game. Weakest part of the Bills. It's not the defense. It's the O-line. Better this year. Struggled for 5 years. And with that, it's going to be the best college football weekend of the year. It's going to be absolutely sensational. One of the highlight games is Penn State at Michigan. Joel Klatt will be on it. Joining us now, here is the Klattster. It's so good to have you. Listen to that. Now,
crowd. I love it.
Crowd, ovation. So listen, everybody, this is the way college football works. The whole country is pulling for Penn State to beat Harbaugh.
You think so?
Oh, that is why I'm going to double down and say Michigan wins.
Oh.
But there are a lot of people that are rooting for Penn State because Harbaugh's confident, and that's a bad thing in today's society.
They don't like that. He can't be good.
He's confident, and he doesn't care what you think.
He doesn't, and he makes it very clear.
Okay, Penn State.
It's a difficult one for Michigan.
Why?
Because Penn State has transformed. They're far different than they were a year ago, and their strengths are actually right where you need to be strong to face Michigan. So from a matchup standpoint, this is a difficult matchup, really for each team, which is why it's such an intriguing game, but certainly from the Michigan standpoint. And one guy stands out, above any other for Penn State. And it's not their quarterback, Sean Clifford, or even their great new running back, Nick Singleton, a freshman, or their offense, Britton Strange, you're seeing here on your screen, the tight end running for a touchdown against Purdue. It's a guy that was hurt in the back half of last year, and he makes them a really stout run defense, and it's their defensive tackle, P.J. Mustafer. He's a really good player, Colin, and if Michigan can't just own the line of scrimmage and run the ball with Blake Corum, that means the game is going to fall on the shoulders of young J.J. McCarthy, and that's a big moment and a big stage for a young quarterback at that point. So I think the game rests on P.J. Mustafer and the Penn State's defense ability to try to make Michigan a one-dimensional offense.
The other thing about Harbaugh, he's not cool, and the internet loves cool. They love Johnny Manziel. They don't like Russell Wilson. They love cool, and Harbaugh wears Dockers, and he wears that goofy whistle, and I'm doubling down on Harbaugh this weekend. I like Michigan to win. They looked a little bit like it last year. This team looks like, eye test, they can play with Georgia. May not beat them, but I see size, strength, arm, speed. They're fast. They can run.
You touched on it right there in the end. The most important aspect for Michigan this year is they are faster. Now, they have not shown a lot of, let's just say, offensive creativity over the last few weeks. And I'm wondering, I'm sitting there, shoot, man, it feels like I'm like the voice of the Wolverines. I've seen them 3 straight weeks. I'm about to see them a 4th straight week. But Colin, in the back of my mind, I'm just sitting here and I'm wondering to myself, is this really their entire offense, or are they saving something?
Well, the quarterback's a kid.
Well, I understand that, but that doesn't mean, see, here's the thing. The misconception about creativity on offense is that it's hard for the quarterback mentally. It's actually not. Okay? And the more creative you can be pre-snap, then the more vanilla you can be post-snap.
Yeah.
This is the way offenses should always be built. Make the defense look at a lot, movement, different formations, different personnel groups, and then run the same 5 to 10 to 12 concepts out of those different looks. This is what makes Lincoln Riley so good. This is what makes Steve Sarkisian so good at the college level. And Michigan hasn't shown that. They've got heavy tendencies formationally, and they're going to need to break those and get more creative if they want to win on Saturday.
All right, so you got Michigan going into the can here. You don't like them. Let's go USC.
Wait.
So another gigantic, important brand for the sport. Everybody's bailing on USC, and then I watch Utah get completely undressed by UCLA. By the way, UCLA is a tough matchup for USC. I'll get to that later.
Yeah.
They are. They match up. I don't know if Utah's as tough a matchup. You know what Utah can't do? Stop mobile quarterbacks.
Okay. That's fair. They struggled with Anthony Richardson. They struggled with Dorian Thompson-Robinson.
And I think it's very obvious. If I can see it, Lincoln Riley at practice can see it. I watch this matchup, and I'm like, I think Caleb Williams is going to be a handful for the Utes.
No doubt about it. Caleb Williams is a bad matchup for Utah. There's no doubt. However, I will say this. This is a terrible matchup for USC. Terrible matchup for USC. Their success this year is a bit of an illusion.
Oh, okay.
And the reason being because it looks like their defense is playing better and can stop some people. They're number 1 in scoring defense in the Pac-12.
Actually, I didn't hear you. What did you say? Number 1 in the nation?
No. Pac-12
okay.
in scoring defense. They're number 1 in the nation in interceptions and sacks.
Impressive.
But the only way they can get to that is if they play with the lead. Their offense is so important to them because their style of play is so important to them. Did you know they're 105th in the country in terms of yards per rush defense? They give up over 4.5 yards per carry. Guess who's more committed to the run than anybody in the conference? Utah, 39 carries per game. Guess who does a better job than anybody in the Pac-12 of holding the ball and keeping the opposition's offense on the sideline? Utah, 33 minutes per game time of possession. Guess what Utah does at home in Salt Lake? Since 2017, they're 23-2. Utah wins this weekend, folks.
All right.
So Utah wins. They're favored by 3.5. They should be. USC is good. I love what Lincoln Riley is doing. You know that more than anybody. I sit here and sing their praises. But this is a terrible matchup because of the illusion of quality defense. That defense is not quality if they can't play with the lead.
So let me guess. Michigan, USC stink. You got Tennessee beating Alabama.
What are you talking about?
Let me guess. Tennessee beats Alabama.
Oh, it's a terrible matchup for Bama.
Oh, boy. Yeah, you know how many times I've heard that in the last 10 years? And you know how many times I've seen it? Not many.
Well, at some point, you just got to watch the film, look at the data.
I like Tennessee's uniforms.
I thought the gray uniforms were atrocious last week. Now, I thought what was most impressive about Tennessee last week was their quarterback. He's fantastic. I love Hendon
By the way,
Hooker.
who beats Alabama? Fairness.
Quarterbacks.
Yeah, if the quarterback can move, I mean, if you go look at the history, I will say this. Tennessee has a way of breaking your heart. Nobody gags like Tennessee football.
No, that's
true.
true.
I will say, this is the kind of quarterback that has beaten Alabama.
And in particular this year, this is what they struggled with in the first quarter against Texas, is that Quinn Ewers could hurt them down the field. When it comes to down the field passing, maybe Ohio State does it better than Tennessee, and nobody else really. Yeah. In fact, when you look at, who's thrown more 30-yard completions or more in college football, explosive pass plays, Tennessee is second on that list to Ohio State with 16. Hendon Hooker has 40 touchdowns, over 40 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions since transferring to Tennessee. It's a bad matchup for Alabama. Plus, Alabama doesn't know about their status of their quarterback, and they struggle on the road. In the last couple of years, really since they lost a dominant offensive line, they have struggled on the road. Last year, they won a tight one against Florida on the road. They got beat by Texas A&M, 4 overtimes against Auburn. This year, they go to Texas. They have to win by a point with their quarterback putting a cape on their back, and this might be the toughest environment of them all. Neyland is going to be on fire. Hendon Hooker is playing as good a football as anybody.
Good. He's really good.
I think Tennessee wins this weekend. I've got to... I hate it. Listen, after whatever I said, what it was 7 years ago, Alabama's done. You do not make money betting against Nick Saban, betting against the Tide. But just this matchup is bad for them.
John Quincy Adams was the last time Tennessee beat Alabama. He was the president. When's the last time Tennessee beat Alabama?
I know.
It must have been 15 years ago.
I think that they win Saturday. That they win Saturday.
So you got USC rolling down the hill, getting whacked in Utah.
Well, they're not even favored in that game. That's a terrible... Again, football is always about matchups. This is a really bad matchup for USC on the road against Utah, and this is a really bad matchup for Alabama on the road against Tennessee. These two teams are strong where they need to be to beat Bama and to beat USC.
Let's look at your Joel Klatt's top 10.
Okay.
I got to be honest with you a little bit. I think I'm not in love with Clemson this year. I'm not, and I'll tell you this.
Well, we just don't know.
Oklahoma State, I watched them last weekend. I think Clemson and Oklahoma State, I'm not buying it. I think they're good. I think Tennessee is underrated. I'd move Tennessee up. I think, UCLA may be a basketball school.
I got UCLA in there at number 10.
UCLA's got seniors on the offensive line, senior court. They got a lot of snaps.
Let me just put it to you this way. If you're looking at this top 10, the top 5 are clearly kind of the top 5. And I know you threw out some questions about Clemson. Top 4 might be the top 4. But those are the 5 schools that you could have made playoff appearances outside of everybody else. USC, Penn State, Tennessee, Oklahoma State, UCLA have not. If you're saying of those next 5,
Tennessee,
which team is most likely to go to the playoff?
Well, I'm saying the 4 teams you have, Ohio State, Bama, Georgia, Michigan, I think they're the top 4. Tennessee, I would put it 5.
So of those next teams, I think UCLA might be the team that's most likely to go to the playoff.
Oh, no, most likely to go to the playoff.
That's what I was bringing up. Because Tennessee's going to have to win 2 of 3 against Bama, Georgia, Bama. Right? What they're going to... And I don't see that. USC, they got a bad matchup against Utah, and it's a terrible matchup against UCLA. I think Penn State in that gauntlet in the Big Ten East, that's tough. They got 2 teams ahead of them in the rankings. Oklahoma State's not that much better than the rest of the teams in the Big 12. Right. And now you're sitting there, and it's like, hey, the way UCLA played, they could win the Pac-12.
Okay, I tend to be one of these people. The internet is just, everything is outrage. You and I joke
You're the
about,
voice of reason?
I tend to think I am.
You're the calming influence of the internet.
I tend to be patient with the long history of giving things time to bake, but I'd fire Venables this weekend. So Matt Rule is available.
Yes.
If I'm the athletic director at Oklahoma, I say,
hold on.
Hey, time out. I'd call his agent. I'd say, Matt, golf. We'll give you free golf. Golf. I got 4 games to watch. This is a whiff. You got to own stuff. Hey, Arizona said, I'm talking right now. When I watch Oklahoma, tackling, coverage, you see that sideline the last 2 weekends?
It was bad.
Like, guys are bailing. We have a transfer portal now. You can lose 10 starters in this thing. If they don't get it right in the next month, I think you have to call Matt Rule. You can't go to the SEC. By the way, look at the SEC right now. Offensive coach at Tennessee, they're surging. Offensive coach at Ole Miss, they're surging. I know y'all love Saban and Kirby Smart. There are a lot of smart offensive coaches in that even Saban's defense now is not as dominant as it was.
Really?
It doesn't look as fast as it used to. All I'm saying is, Matt Rule, he's not taking the Wisconsin or Nebraska jobs. Come on.
I don't know. That is a quick trigger and a huge number to move away from Brent Venables. I think that Brent is I think he is a guy that can and will have success. This last weekend was a tough one because he loses his quarterback and
49-0.
I know, trust me, I get it. And what was most disturbing is the lack of effort and heart showed by Oklahoma in that game specifically and in that venue. That's the spot that is like, you make your last stand.
Okay.
If you're